duplicate the bare plaster, and I actually do want to use this part right here. To create the mask, we could use the circular marquee, but it's always coming in at an angle. So we're going to use the ellipse tool. Select the ellipse tool. Make sure it's on paths only, and select a little bit around the UVs for the top. And the settings I have my ellipse tool on are circle, so that it's always a perfect circle. And right click and make selection, and once you have it selected, create a mask from it, set the layer to overlay, unlink it, desaturate it, and go into blending options. Alright, duplicate the second image, give it the same mask, desaturate, set it to multiply, and go into the blending options. Don't forget to set the layer to 50% opacity, and also give it the same outer glow. Alright, I decided not to add a glow to this one. Alright, for this one it's probably going to be easy to work with our UVs. So create another, and make sure it's another group, and make sure it's named edge. Create a new layer, name it random. And just like we did with the first layer, just bring it down to 1 pixels and start drawing some random lines. Oops, actually did not give it the layer mask. There we go. And create the mask. Whoops, we were painting at 31%. We can fix that by just duplicating it 3 times, merging the layers, and painting the mask now. And add a little bit of contrast with curves. And there we go with the random. To create the edge, bring out the ellipse tool again, and this time, instead of making it a selection, select stroke path, but first we have to make sure that this is on the brush at 2 pixel diameter, and go back into the ellipse tool and select stroke path, simulate pressure. We actually, you know what, just take simulate pressure off. We can paint that detail in, and now we've got some edge detail. And we also want to add some scratches to the insets. Let's just name that slight damage. And to add a little bit of damage to the insets, just draw the path using the pen tool. All I did was select the pen tool and start drawing out the path of a path using one of the insets as a reference, and then just stroke the path and select this tool right here, the path selection tool, and make sure bounding box is on. And to just duplicate the edge really quickly, just select this path here in the center, rotate it. You can hold down shift 45 degrees, stroke path, move the center of rotation again, rotate it another 45, whoops, and stroke the path, and you get the idea. Just stroke the path again, and then move the center of rotation, stroke the path again, and I'm just going to do it again. And one more time. Whoops. Alright, we're done with it. And now to start painting the edge. Mask. Add a mask. Change the brush tip shape to this nice cloudy brush. And start painting at 35 opacity should be good. Remember, the top wouldn't be as exposed to the elements as the edge, so make sure to keep them at a lower opacity using the mask than the edge. Alright. Select all of that and create a group, name it top, and let's do it one more time with the bottom. Duplicate the base layer. Create a mask using the UVs. unlink it, desaturate it, set it to overlay, whoops, create our second reference image, and I want to use this right here. It is the bottom after all, so we would see a little bit more damage. Multiply. I'm actually not going to set this one to 50% opacity. I think it looks fine like that. And I want to paint a little bit of a mask on it. Whoops. Actually was not painting on the mask. Alright. For the slight damage, ooh. We're going to use the same process. Random. Start painting some random scratch lines. Remember, it is the bottom, so it'll have a little bit more damage, some more damage than the top. Alright, add a mask to that. Start painting at 35% opacity on the mask. It's going to be more visible than the damage on the top of the grenade. Let's add a little bit more contrast using levels. And I want to do the same to the top. Oops, that's not random layer. Just to make it more slight. And don't forget on the edge layer for the bottom, we need to create a edge layer to add a little bit of damage to the edge. Whoops, wrong brush. And let's just duplicate that random layer's mask and make the edge damage more visible. And set it to overlay. Same with the top layer. Actually, you can just set the entire group to overlay. Just to save a little bit of time. Alright, with the adjustment layers on, we get a more of a metal feel out of the texture. But I still want to add a levels to it a little bit to lighten it up a little bit and then add some contrast. Also, let's lighten up that part of the bottom. The easiest way would be to select it with the magic wand tool. Let's turn down the tolerance 12. Alright, and add a curves. Whoops. Invert the selection. Add a curves. Huh. Okay, there we go. And for the layer, for the mask, blur it. Gaussian blur it, about 7 pixels. Then go to filter, noise, dust and scratches. And move that adjustment layer down. So it's between the top and bottom layers, and turn it down a little bit. Alright, there we go. Okay. So one final adjustment I like to do is duplicate the ambient occlusion layer, put it below the textures, right above the base, and isolate it so we can color it, and bring up the hue and saturation window. Bring up the hue and saturation window by pressing Ctrl U. Uncheck these buttons right here. Control U, and colorize. And we want it to be a metallic blue, so desaturate it a little bit. Turn the lightness up and unisolate it. I isolated it by pressing Alt on the I button. And set it to 50% opacity. Maybe a little bit less. Alright. And one more thing to do. Make a new layer, go to Image, Apply Image, and make sure the blending is on normal. And we're gonna sharpen the texture a little bit. Go to Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask, turn the radius way down, 1 pixel should do it, and the amount to 60%. And it looks pretty good sharpened. I'm going to sharpen it again. Just press Control F or go up to Filter and run the last filter. Then go to Edit, Fade Unsharp Mask, and we'll bring it down to 50%. Alright, that's better. Alright, save the document. Alright, and now let's get set creating a specular and bump map from the images. So go to File, Save As, Gradient Occlusion _ spec. Alright, delete the sharpened layer and create an adjustment layer and hue saturation. Bring saturation all the way down. Actually, leave a little bit of saturation. We want a little bit of color. Alright, and now we'll get set with making the specular map. Alright, so for the edges, we know we want those to be the most reflective because they're going to be where the bare metal is. It's been scratched and it's been painted over, so where the scratches are going to have the most specular part of the images. So go to the specular maps for all of the layers. Press Ctrl E to merge them. And then add a curves adjustment. Press OK before you do any changes, and holding down Alt between the two layers, we're going to create a clip mask so it only affects that layer. And start to brighten the image up. Set it to screen. Oh, that's not having any effect at all. Let's try some brightness and contrast. Alright, that's much better. Clip mask it. Oh, right. Be better to take all of these, put them in their own group, name them edge. Delete the adjustment group. Whoops, wrong group. Delete the adjustment group. Set this layer to screen. Alright. And then for the bottom, we're going to invert. So add an invert mask. And then quick little trick to get a quick specular map and then adjust it. Hide the invert adjustment layer. Select the mask and go to image. Oops. Hide the edge. Go to image. Apply image. And now when we bring the mask back up, it's only inverting the lightest parts of the image, so it's decreasing the contrast a little bit. And now we're going to edit the layers. Go to main, select all the rust paint images from all the layers, so all the layer 6s. Control E to make them 1. Then bring up the levels by pressing Control L, and move the middle handle and highlight handle up, and then start bringing the middle handle in until we get some nice contrast. This part is not cooperating at all. So go to brightness and contrast, decrease the contrast. If you have CS3, you can select use legacy. Now decrease the contrast. There we go. And clip mask it to the layer and set it to screen. And then for the rest of the layers, Control E to merge those as well. Now we can delete all of the groups that we didn't need before. Bring up the curves adjustment and decrease the contrast. Alright. Shut off the AO layers. Actually, keep this AO layer, and we're going to decrease the opacity to 20%. Just to add a little bit of variation, maybe even turn it down some more, 10%. Make it really slight, and make a new layer, name it final, go to image, apply image, and we're going to sharpen this one too. Sharpen it twice, edit fade on sharp mask, and turn it down to 20% should be good. The reason why we're sharpening it a little bit more than we usually would is because sometimes in Cinema 4D when we render out a texture, depending on our anti-aliasing settings, it'll be a little blurry. So doing this ensures that our texture will be nice and sharp when it's rendered out. So save it, close, and open the grenade color. It's taking a little while. and this time save it as grenade underscore bump. Alright, get rid of that and the bottom AO layer, and turn the top AO layer extremely down. 10% should be good. And we want the bump map to bump around where the edges have been scratched off. So select all of the slight damage groups, merge them, move it up, delete the adjustments folder, and invert them, and set it to multiply. Alright, and now we can take all of the layer 6, merge them, all of the layer 5s, merge them, move them up, delete the groups we don't need anymore, and for now we'll just work with the layer 6. For the bump, I want the sides to be a little bit more noticeable with the bump, so press Ctrl M to bring curves and increase the contrast. Same with this layer, Ctrl M. But we're going to set it to soft light, maybe even overlay, and set this layer to multiply. Alright, that was pretty good. Alright, go to image, apply image, and before we sharpen, for my bump maps I always like to add a little bit of noise. So go to noise, add noise, make sure monochromatic is selected and Gaussian, and turn it up to maybe 2%, then go to edit, fade, add noise, and turn it down. Now we can sharpen, go to sharpen, unsharp mask, sharpen it twice, then go to edit, fade unsharp mask, and fade it until you've got a result that you're happy with. Alright. Now that we're done with the main body, I'm going to quickly, well not quickly, obviously, show you how I did the textures for the fuse and fuse cap. It's basically the same techniques that I used for the main body. So I'm going to pause and then we'll open up those textures and I'll show you how I did them.